I'd like to introduce today's headliners. Today we have Rob Cochran from Nutanix, John Lee from HYCU, Frank Marino from Forthright, and Steve Zoberg from Forthright. To get things started though, we're going to see where everyone currently stands with backup and recovery. So I'm going to put up a quick poll. So if you guys could just take a minute to answer that. Okay. All right, I'm going to close the poll out. We got almost everybody voted. And so here are the, am I sharing the results? Oh, yes, there's a result. So it looks like there's a split between 1 and more than 3 different options.
Wow. Well, boy, do we got something for the 60% of you that have more than one, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Steve. He's going to talk a little bit about Forthright and then explain the problem that we're going to be talking about today that Nutanix Mine with HYCU solves. So go ahead, Steve.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I only have a few minutes. I'm going to give you a little overview. My name is Steve Zoberg, COO at Forthright. And for those of you who have joined us but haven't worked with Forthright before, I wanted to start with this quick little intro. Forthright's been helping customers optimize their application delivery for decades. And for us, it's more than just about tools and technology. It's about how do you supercharge your end user experiences, right? So we built our practice around being very focused on end user centric in everything that we do. And so what does that mean, right? That means that our passion, our focus, it's not centered around what tools or processes that are optimal for us or that we use. We rather put ourselves in your shoes. We pay very close attention to the experiences and outcomes of your end users that are using your systems and your stakeholders, your business stakeholders. Next slide. Thank you, Kristen. With that being said, it's very important to us that we understand your end user's journey, right? What is a day in the life for them? So people who work in HR, in sales, and technical, what does it look like for them? And when we have that information, and we also understand what the desired outcomes are from your business stakeholders, we've got enough data at that point to guide our clients toward very specific services, which are tailored to meet their needs, and they're all around accomplishing those desired outcomes. So to give you an example, next slide, please. Many clients come to us, and these are the slew of services. We kind of put them into 6 buckets, and I'm just going to briefly overview them, and I'm going to talk to you about how this relates to what we're going to talk about today. But many clients just need help with building their use cases, right? Maybe they need health check, or they need some planning or architectural services or some assessments. Their goal usually is understanding what's my current state, what am I trying to achieve, where's my end state, and then what does a roadmap look like? And so when you look at Planet Services, it's got several consulting options under there to actually help customers and clients work through that and deliver those outcomes for them. But maybe you're at a point where you know what you're doing, right? You know what you're going to build. You've defined your desired outcome already, and what you lack are resources. And that lack might be that you don't have the in-house skill sets on certain technologies, or maybe you do, you just don't have the bandwidth because everybody's too busy. And so that's impacting your ability to execute. So our Build It services allows engineers to jump right in, work with your team to execute on your plan, and we ensure that we're delivering exceptional experiences with your users while we're rolling out new technologies. So clients can leverage Build It to augment their staff for temporary time periods, or maybe you have long-term projects. Of course, some of you, well, you need to plan and you need to execute on your strategy, and you've got that covered already, but you feel like, you know what, we are lacking a 24/7 level 3 critical support desk. So we see a lot of customers where they put people in a queue, an on-call queue. Basically, you go home and you're responsible. There's 1 or 2 individuals that get that lucky responsibility. And Forthright's supported program it provides a 24/7 SLA-backed multi-vendor support desk, which is targeted for your IT and your line of business teams. That was a mouthful, but what it is that when your in-house team has a bad day because things just didn't go as planned, and we know that happens, this is an excellent resource for them to have at their disposal, essentially, right? Because it accelerates how fast they can return service and solve critical outage issues, and therefore saving the business, of course, time and money, and hoping to improve the end user experience. So support it is like your team's lifeline to additional engineering resources 24/7, and they're going to own that issue with you, and they're not going to play this vendor finger pointing thing that happens, because a lot of times each vendor is very focused on their technology. So by working with a company that's multi-vendor certified, we're able to provide support across multiple platforms. So some of you are probably thinking at this point, well, Steve, we could probably use in certain degrees all of those services. And that's where Expandit comes in, because it's targeted for just that use case. Expandit is a subscription service where it's specifically designed to build strategic partnerships with our clients. And we combine the access of Planet, build it, and support it all together. So it's a highly flexible offering that allows you to dial in just what you need when you need it, and that's going to drive the maximum and optimal results for you. So it's literally like expanding your IT team size and their capabilities overnight. But unlike staffing, not only are we integrating our team, which is already working together, but our processes, our management, and our tools, we even go as far as integrating our ITSM with yours. So that way we can work as one group. So to wrap all this up, once you've got your solutions up and running, ongoing operations become the focus. And to round out this user-centric set of services we have, Run It and Secure It are both managed services. And we provide 3 different levels of engagement. So we can provide your team with exceptional situational awareness with our NOC and SOC, providing you access to real-time data from very advanced monitoring tools, automated processes, and notification systems. But we also can provide co-managed and fully managed services that were specifically tailored to how your organization wants to leverage managed services. So, we take this user experience I was talking about, we take it so seriously that these services actually have an SLA around user satisfaction. It's pretty phenomenal. So at this point, you're probably thinking, well, how does data protection and recovery solutions, how does it fit into here? How does that impact end user experience, right? And why is that something that we're talking about? Where's the connection? I can tell you that over the last couple of decades working with clients, we've learned that there's a lot of dependencies in our systems. And sometimes peripheral things that you wouldn't think are even direct dependencies, they can directly impact end user experiences. And the list is pretty long of things. While Forthright's helped customers leverage many different technologies across different platforms. So we have customers that are all on-prem, we have customers that are all in the cloud, and then a varying degree, right, of in between those states. And as it turns out, that there's a surprising area that seems to continuously impact user experience. And in fact, backup and recovery technologies is one of those areas. Because the ramifications of a poor data protection strategy and technologies, it manifests itself in a couple of different ways. And the top 3 things I can think about is obviously it impacts production performance right off the bat, because if you've got poor running or slow running backups or recoveries, that's going to impact performance and ROM IOPS. That's pretty straightforward for us. And that, of course, impacts user experience. But that also leads to missing RPOs and RTOs. And when that happens, then of course, you have your cost of downtime increasing because your recovery time is longer. And then finally, complexity is a big challenge. Many organizations require siloed backup solutions and technologies because they're trying to deal with multiple platforms. And when they do that, then they need sometimes siloed teams to manage those platforms. So when you're managing on-prem, physical, virtual, and in the cloud, you do run into these complexities from a data protection standpoint. So I'm going to hand over this conversation to Frank Marino, who's our VP of Professional Services, and he's going to talk about how Nutanix Mine and HYCU provides a simple, robust, highly scalable solution for data protection and recovery, and it works across all these different platforms. And for me, it's one of the ultimate solutions that you can use in protecting your end user experience, your uptime, and of course, your data. So Frank, maybe you can jump in and kind of talk a little bit about some of these challenges that we talked about.
Yeah, next slide, please. So some of the things you're going to be experiencing, today, especially those of you, the 60% of you that have more than one solution, is that on an ongoing basis, you suffer from having to deal with disparate applications, disparate systems, whether that be physical, virtual, hybrid, cloud, multi-cloud, multi-tenant, and the like. And so this is your day-to-day. And with each one of those variables, you are now met with understanding the RPOs and RTOs of all the different tiers of applications and business units that need to achieve every one of these goals. All right. On top of that, as the growth of technology happens in organizations, there is an ongoing situation for the need for more and more data to be stored somewhere. So you have an exponential increase in your backup or data protection repositories. And with all that then becomes, especially for those of you that have multiple applications that you're using for data protection, now you have several licensing and subscriptions and things like that you have to keep aware of and maintain all those areas of your data protection strategy. And lastly, one that's been coming more and more, especially now with everyone being remote, there's been an increase in ransomware and security concerns with your backup, whether that be through retentions or attacking backup, and that's becoming much more proliferate in today's IT strategies, right? So we have two options, really. I mean, if that's what you're facing on a day-to-day basis, you could easily just increase your team exponentially. Every one of us, I'm sure, would love to grow our team. We like people. And, with all these different expertise, obviously a SWAT team could solve for this problem. Now, I'm sure that many of you are probably thinking, well, yeah, Frank, that's going to work, but, we don't have the budget for that and this, that, and the other. So that's unfortunate because we would have loved a large team. The other option is to start simplifying this whole idea. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about today, right? One thing I think that Steve was getting at when we're talking about from an end user experience is that as IT, we tend to be the first leg of getting back to data. We get data fast, we deal with that, but at the end of the day, once we're done, then the user has to make up for whatever was that lost time. So we're going to be talking about a solution offering between Nutanix Mine and HYCU and how these two work to solve for this challenge. On the Nutanix side with Mine, the challenges with the ever-growing need for additional space and how to calculate that, especially when you have tiering or the different data storage repositories. You have archiving over here. Someone's got to be paid attention to that. Also, when you're recovering, how do you deal with that? Those kind of things. Nutanix Mine is going to solve for that. And then ultimately, we're going to put on top of that the need for HYCU. It's going to be some of the brains of this operation. It's going to allow you to manage all the disparate applications and different solution sets. And we'll cover that throughout this entire presentation so you guys can keep on here. So essentially, if you're facing any of these challenges or you're experiencing this today, I think by the end of this, what you're going to see is I think a great solution to solve for these challenges. One that's going to literally address the security concerns, the licensing growth concerns, and ultimately understanding all those different disparate applications all from one solution. I'm going to avoid saying single pane of glass because I absolutely hate that term, but you're going to see scenarios here where inside of solutions you already are familiar with, you'll be able to actually work with it, especially if you guys are already a Nutanix Prism user. You're going to really like what you're going to see. With that said, I think, am I passing it to John or am I passing it to Rob? Which one of you guys go first? Perfect.
Well, Rob's going to talk, but I'm going to present the slides. So thanks a lot, Frank.
Hey, no worries. I'll be interrupting you.
Yeah. And Frank, I'm going to apologize for the single pane of glass comment that I will make at some point.
I know you will. I know you will. I know you will.
So,
all right, John, you have the controls now.
Okay, I'm trying to get to sharing here, and I'm going to share my screen. And so I guess you're okay. I just need to move that over to. So No, never mind. I just have to move some things out of the way here. So, and we should be ready to go.
You're seeing your primary desktop.
Oh, you're seeing the primary. Okay, I just moved everything out of the way. So,
we're seeing the lake.
Okay. Yeah, that's
and now
the Pacific
I want to
Ocean
go
there.
fishing. And now I want to go fishing.
Yeah. Okay. So, can you see the slides now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, we're going to have some resources available to you. We're going to send out some of you. Some of them are available in the handout section. So, Rob, why don't you go ahead and talk about the Nutanix platform?
Absolutely. So, for those of you who have no experience with Nutanix, Nutanix directly addresses replatforming and redesigning the traditional three-tiered data center infrastructure. Our approach to it is we want to commoditize the infrastructure. We want to take out the complexity of it. We want to give it the ease of use that you have with your iPhone. You just want to be able to go in there and press update my app and go on about your business and not worry about it, and just slow down, John, and just keep it simple. So we converge three-tier. We take compute, memory, storage, and instead of having server X, Y, and Z from this company, storage X, Y, and Z from that company, etc., we take it and we put it onto an appliance type model. Now, our appliance models are made by Supermicro, but we also have OEM models that are from Lenovo, from Dell, from HP. We're compatible with Cisco. So in that sense, think of Nutanix as Switzerland. As long as you're using compatible hardware, we don't care what hypervisor you're using. It could be our Acropolis virtualization hypervisor. It could be ESX. It could be Hyper-V, and in some cases, it can still be Zen Server from Citrix. So we really don't care what hypervisor you guys use. We don't care what hardware you use, as long as it's approved, and we thoroughly check out whatever we approve. And then we allow you to talk to any cloud. We don't care whether it's Azure, AWS, Google, or our own cloud. We don't care. So we are Switzerland. We give you the freedom of choice, and then all we do is we put our Acropolis operating system overlay in the midst of that, so you get the benefits of how we architect our storage and our performance. A little bit of history of Nutanix. Nutanix, the creators of the Nutanix distributed file structure actually came from Google, and they created the Google file structure, which is a web scale technology to where it doesn't matter what sits behind that veil of Google. It doesn't matter. You don't, if you go to Azure, you go to AWS, you go to Google Cloud, you're not asking what hypervisor they're using. You're not asking what hardware they're using. You're just swiping your credit card and getting the ease of use. And that's what Nutanix brings on-prem, as well as allow you to cohabitate with off-prem from a single point, from a single pane of glass management interface, which we call Prism. Everything in our design structure, whether you're using our hardware or another OEM hardware, is based on that single pane of glass. We use what we like to refer to as our one-click upgrade, our one-click patching with zero downtime. We distribute the data across what we call our nodes, which are basically host servers, and we distribute that as far wide as you go. So we distribute the load, we distribute the processing, we distribute the overhead across the entire environment as a Google or a web scale technology of XYZ does. And that's what we bring on-prem, as well as leveraging public cloud as well. So that's why we call ourselves the hybrid cloud solution, because that's what we do. So in this instance, what you're looking at on the slide is you're seeing, we just took that entire three-tier gigantic block on the left-hand side and we crammed it down into our virtualization layer, which, like I said, could be ESX, ours, Hyper-V, or Citrix, and we put it into the appliance model. And we distribute not only the data, but we distribute the management of it. So when I refer to our management console of Prism, Prism runs on every single node. You do not have a single point of failure. We do not build in single points of failure into our environment whatsoever. And our operating system, as well as our hypervisor, we mentioned security earlier, our hypervisor and security model, we built ours being STED compliant with the NSA right out of the box. So it is a self-healing, STED compliant, NSA compliant, HIPAA, you name it, we're compliant to it right out of the box. And we do that from end to end. So, and I know John's going to talk to that later on when we get to the security section of the HYCU demonstration, and he'll get into that a little bit further. I don't want to take too much of his thunder away. So, next slide, please, John. Let's see. John?
Yeah, forward to the next slide. It should be, yep.
Yep, thank you. So as we all know, that the primary storage on site is basically 20% of your use. And then we have another 80% that's either data at rest or data that needs to be write once, read many, our basic secondary storage. And one of the things Nutanix does really well is we auto tier our storage. So you don't have, there's no interface to it. It is treated as hot and cold data, and we move it around as such. One of the things that we have built in that HYCU leverages is our auto tiering as well as our snapshot and cloning technology. Nutanix uses a method called our RF2 or RF3 factors, which are our recovery factors. So in our solution, there is always 2 copies of every virtual machine, and it doesn't matter whether it's ESX or HV or Hyper-V or Zen server, it doesn't matter. If it's a virtual machine and it's in our environment, there's 2 copies of it, or if it's something super important, there's 3 copies of it. And then we use our primary technology of data locality. So whatever host / what we call node, wherever that is run, whether that VM is running, whatever node it's running, there is a local copy of that VM right there, and then a secondary copy is elsewhere within your cluster, running on the storage within your cluster. So there's always 2 copies running. So you always have something inline to recover from, as well as our snapshot technology, which I'll let John, I won't steal John's thunder on that, even though our snapshot technology is awesome, as well as our cloning ability. So there's always 2 copies, and HYCU and Mine are going to leverage those copies, and which John is going to talk about later as to the backup and recovery. That being said, our resiliency is still 1 pane of glass, auto tiering, ease of management. And this is the point in here where I say our solution, our Nutanix solution, regardless of hardware or hypervisor, with its management interface, is something a generalist can run. It is built for a generalist, not a bunch of specialists. Now, a specialist can run it, and he'll make it look like Scotty, from Star Trek. It took me 3-4 days to do that, and it took him 5 minutes, and he's off doing a project he really wants to do later. The good thing about ours is with its upgradability on the fly. You can upgrade our entire cluster from XYZ version to XYZ version on the fly, 0 downtime. On each one of our nodes, we have what we call our CVM, our controller VM. It is a small Linux-based kernel that runs on each and every node, and this helps distribute the loads, the storage commands, the storage instructions. All the management tier within Nutanix are on these CVMs that are distributed across all the nodes, and the metadata that what they're sending back and forth on the metadata is across all nodes. There's no single point of failure. So if, say I have a node and I lose the controller VM, all the VMs on that node are still going to run as if that controller VM is up and running all the time, because the other CVMs will take over its load and parse it out to however many CVMs you have. A lot of times, and this is one of the things one of my customers loves to brag on, he had a CVM go down. He got the email saying the CVM was back up before he got the email saying the CVM went down, because the check for it and recovery was quicker than the actual alert message, which I think was 90 seconds. He had it set to 90 seconds. It was down and up in under 90 seconds. And he got the note, hey, your CVM's back up. And he went, I didn't know it went down. And he loved that part of it because it's just that fast. It is a VM rebooting. So when we upgrade, it's just that fast to upgrade a controller VM to the next version. Pushes it out, it serializes it, the load is parsed out long enough to reboot that VM and back onto it. And that's how our upgrades and our patches happen. When we refer to our one-click upgrade, that is including firmware, BIOS, hypervisor, our Acropolis operating system in that mix. The one caveat when I talk about it is if you're running a vSphere ESX environment, then Virtual Center has to be upgraded outside of that normal bandwidth.
So
Rob, we take yes.
So I'm assuming that a lot of this now is going to translate to the awesomeness that is Nutanix HCI is going to translate into Mine then, right? For this secondary storage, this whole place for data protection. Or just want to make sure. Absolutely. So the ease of upgrade and patching I was just talking about with our normal. Excuse me, my 13-year-old just sounds like he ran through the floor. I apologize. The one-click upgrades, our one-click patches, all of that translates into our Mine product as well. It is all run from within Prism in our lifecycle management. And if you have Mine in the Nutanix environment, it's going to say, do you want to upgrade Mine? Yes. You're done. And if you need to expand the Mine or the regular Nutanix infrastructure, it is literally plug in the new box made by XYZ, and you have a button that says expand cluster, and it will take what it finds and it will zero it out with everything else. It will put it on the same exact revision all the way across the board, firmware, BIOS, Acropolis operating system, Mine version. If you already have a Mine unit out and you're adding more Mine units, it will level set the Mine units, and you will look at the Prism interface, and all of a sudden your CPU capacity will just jump however amount you just added. Memory, storage, the same thing. Our storage containers and our storage pools will just grow right in front of your eyes. You have to do nothing. You literally hit expand cluster. Do you want to proceed? Yes. You're done. Go have your lunch. When you come back 20 minutes, 40 minutes later, depending on how many you added, it's done. I can build a brand new production cluster of a minimum of 8 nodes in about 40 minutes. And that's if I take my time and drink some coffee while I'm doing it. It's just that simple.
That's an interesting capability because a lot of customers struggle when their backup data jobs grow. So if they're on some kind of tape or even some kind of NAS, scaling that out becomes really difficult. Sometimes you literally have to rip and replace or break them up. And that's one of the things that we like about this technology as well is that it just scales so easily. And it's very seamless on how that works, and the performance just starts doubling as you add more nodes. So you can buy what you need at that moment in time, and as your needs grow, it's really easy to either scale that out or just bolt in additional boxes.
Absolutely. So, and the true ease of it is as Steve was alluding to, if you're running out of space in your backup and in your Mine environment, it is literally buy a new unit, throw it in. It will auto discovery as long as you have a couple of settings toggled when you first install your original cluster. It'll auto discover it and it'll say, hey, I found this. What do you want to do? Expand, proceed. Yes, done. And then your storage pool will just grow. You don't have to change anything from a HYCU interface standpoint or the Nutanix interface. You're literally done. And that's the type of, I don't want to say sleepwalking through adding capacity, but that's what you want. You want to be able to press one button, and go have your coffee and say, hey, man, Mr. CIO, I just doubled our backup capacity, and we're not worried anymore about running out of space, or I just added XYZ. We're clear until the third quarter. We're clear until the fourth quarter, whatever. And I know with the HYCU interface, especially with Nutanix, the Nutanix overlay, is our capacity planning will help you see that. It will go in and give you the analytics and say, okay, from the HYCU side, you're going to run out of mine space at XYZ. Well, this is how much time you have. So now it's time to get the CFO involved. It's time to get procurement involved. Let's go buy a new mine unit and do whatever we need to do license-wise and go on about our business, add it, and go.
The nice thing is it doesn't increase the complexity, so it keeps the complexity at a bare minimum. And because you don't need to bring down the system to expand or replace, this really becomes something that can be done during operational hours.
Yeah.
So it's been a big savings for a lot of our clients as they've implemented this.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and one of the things that I always go ahead, John.
Yeah, just one more point is with HYCU, it makes it easy because after you've expanded the capacity, you press one button on HYCU, and we've expanded the capacity within HYCU, and we can take advantage of that new capacity. And then also because you have additional CPUs there, we can actually then add concurrency to the backups and speed up your backups. So, you know, it integrates so well with Nutanix Mine.
This image that we're looking at right now on the slide, I think one of the things that is often lost is I'm hearing Bob talk. I'm thinking to myself, well, Frank, you know, there's all these other backup solutions that have auto tiering, and then they think about all this stuff. I think what's missing in those versus what you're hearing right now is, and that's what John alluded to, is that because we're taking a book out of a very successful HCI concept and moving it over into the secondary storage, you increase the performance as you continue to increase the amount of space requirements. You don't have to go through and think about each one of those individual areas of performance or factors, such as how much space, how much IOPS, how much this or that you need, and it's kind of taken care of for you. And if you are concerned that you're not going to be told or not going to figure out the right type of sizing or whatever, that's what Rob was getting at too with inside of Prism, having the ability to see that roadmap. And that really just kind of takes away all the guesswork, because based on your actual usage, based on your actual performances and things like that, it will then be able to showcase to you some really great capacity planning. Here's when you're going to run out. These are the nodes you need. And it just takes out all the guesswork you could possibly want. So highly recommend that.
It will even kick out a bill of materials, and the sales guys will get an email saying this customer just built out this capacity and this is what they need to reach that capacity. Please assist. I mean, it literally is a no-brainer, and it won't matter if you're on Dell gear. It'll spit out the Dell bill of materials. If you're on Cisco, I always say double check the Cisco because they don't give us quite the access to the product pool that we get from Dell and HP, Supermicro, and Lenovo and IBM. So that's the only caveat I say. Cisco is a little tougher just because of how Cisco kind of goes, it's our stuff, stay away. But other than that, it's simple use. And with Prism and the HYCU interface, one thing, and John will speak to this more, the HYCU interface looks just like our Prism interface. We made it in conjunction with each other, hand in hand. So it literally looks. You don't know when you switch from our pane to their pane. It's the same. It's basically the same thing, and it will give you insight. Combined, it will give you insight all the way down to the second layer storage that some things just don't let you see. So.
Right. So thanks, Rob. Really appreciate the insight into the Nutanix infrastructure and how that translates into a Nutanix Mine. And so what's nice is with Nutanix Mine, HYCU sits right on top of that Nutanix Mine appliance there, and therefore HYCU can then talk to multiple HYCU or multiple Nutanix clusters. It can also talk to 3-tier clusters with vCenter, and then be backing things up and give you that air gap solution so that gives you additional protection against any sort of malware, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And then you can also do archives into the Nutanix objects or any S3 or cloud technologies, so you can do long-term archiving off to another tier with HYCU. So it's not just the backups, but also handling your long-term archives. And it's really making your backups invisible with HYCU. And it's really true simplicity. It's, you know, completeness of coverage. We do Nutanix vSphere. We handle the applications. So it's really one-stop shopping to do your environment, and your database administrators can use this because it's an easy-to-use interface, and they can have kind of ownership of their databases, be able to back those up, and be able to recover their databases. And it really leverages that HCI simplicity and brings that into your backup solution. So just a real quick overview of what HYCU is. You know, it's really super fast deployment. We're just an image that loads up into vCenter or into Nutanix HV. For the Mine appliance, it's going to be, you know, the HV, and it literally takes 3 minutes to install it. We've had people try to prove us that we can't have this up and running very quickly, and they're always surprised at how fast it's able to, and how easy it is to get it installed. And there's zero maintenance because we're a CentOS VM. We use a Postgres database. Therefore, there's no additional costs. There's no Windows licensing and SQL Server licensing and Patch Tuesdays and agents to deal with, because we're completely agentless, and therefore there's all those added costs. Really, just in terms of not just licensing, but just the management of these other infrastructures, they're hidden costs that you don't really realize that you have to deal with. And so this really makes it much easier. You get it up and running, you set it, you forget it, and it's there when you need it. And that's what a lot of our customers tell us. And it's that modular design, so it's easily scalable. So, we can do multiple clusters. We can talk to many different types of objects, in terms of targets. And as you can see here, we can, the variety of things that we can talk to as a target. Mine and objects are really great targets because HYCU sits right on top of it. So the writing of that data is really fast to those particular targets. One of our customers, well, they implemented Mine, and they went from taking, their RTOs were 24 to 48 hours before they went with Mine. They went down to 2 hours after going to Mine because of the performance and leveraging the Nutanix technologies. So it was just a huge performance improvement for them and an ability to recover their VMs when needed. And with its simplicity has been the design from day one with HYCU. This is a purpose-built product for Nutanix, and to back up Nutanix, and also to back up VMware outside of Nutanix. With Nutanix, we support HV and ESX. We also support Windows physical servers, and so it just gives you one product to go and manage your modern-day data center. And we have also very cost-efficient licensing. So with that, it really is, backing up with a flip of a switch. So you can have this up and running in minutes. You can configure it and learn how to use it in minutes because it has a look and feel very similar to Prism, as Rob pointed out.
Hey, John, if I may, man, one of the areas
Sure.
that, I want you to make sure we cover here is that, when we're talking about applications I alluded to, there is, one of the reasons why we may have multiple applications to deal with data protection is because of the fact that we have so many different applications that we care about.
Right.
And I think one of the things that HYCU has been specializing in more than anything else has been, when we say simple, that does not mean that it's not powerful. And I want to make sure that everyone on the call today is aware of this. So, I'm sure you guys have workloads, different database workloads, SAP workloads, Oracle, traditional workloads like, Windows file servers, things like that, right? The gambit, all right? What HYCU is giving you is going to be able to do that auto discovery of those applications so that you can actually now have your ability to determine, hey, these are this type of applications with your environment. Now, that may sound like trivial to some of us, but understand that when your environment continues to grow or you start introducing new applications or new software into your environment, having that capability to see that from the actual HYCU interface, I think is really, really important there, because it's ensuring that those applications are in fact taken care of. You're telling the business you're doing all the right things, but some of us that have been in this game a long time know that just because you got the backup of that system, you may have the data, but it doesn't mean that it's in the right kind of place. It doesn't mean it's the right kind of integrity. It doesn't have the right kind of awareness of that application. And HYCU will give you that. So I wanted to point that out because it may have been lost there. So I wanted to make sure that everyone on the call knew that.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. Yeah, we'll be covering a little bit of that later on, but it's a good thing to point out up front is that we are application aware, and we make sure that applications are brought into an application consistent state, and then we also offer granular recovery for things like SQL Server, and so you can restore individual databases or move individual databases, and also we can do point-in-time recovery with Oracle and SQL Server to recover and replay transaction logs. So again, it's a very powerful solution with a very easy-to-use interface. Thanks, Frank. Appreciate that. So, the sources, as I pointed out, we support HV and ESX on Nutanix, vSphere, and physical servers, physical Windows, physical Linux is coming soon. Targets, as I like to say, we back up to just about anything. So, what's beautiful about it is you can leverage existing backup storage that you already have, but if you're in need of expanding your storage, Mine is a great solution because it offers some that air gap solution between your production and your backup target, because HYCU runs on that Mine or Objects appliance. And you can see here, it's one-click backup. Recovery is in minutes, easy to set up. It just takes a couple minutes to get things set up. And because we designed the UI alongside the Nutanix engineers, it takes about 4 minutes to learn how to use this. And I've given demos, and I've had customers tell me this, yeah, I think my 6th grader could now manage my backups. It's really that easy. So. Just a little overview and about how we're built is, you bought this great technology from Nutanix, or you're considering this great technology from Nutanix into your production environment. And we also leverage all this with Nutanix in terms of the Mine appliance. But, HYCU leverages that technology, and then we don't recreate the creating our own snapshotting technology, our own replication technology, and so we can leverage the Nutanix technology. But when then you look at the gray boxes here, and these are things you'd expect from any backup solution, right? And doing application backup and recovery. But where HYCU is different is in the purple layer here, and that is stun-free rapid application discovery and backup and recovery. So what I mean stun-free is this is leveraging Nutanix snapshots, and this is really important, especially with applications. We can take the snapshots, Nutanix snapshots, and there's no VM stun. There's no halting of that application to do the backups, because those snapshots are at the storage layer. They happen so quickly that you can do backups during the production day. And we still quiesce the application, but the halting of is basically non-existent. So we have customers that are backing up their SQL databases multiple times during the production day during high transaction times without having any impact. That's huge. And we're completely agent free, so we don't require any agents. So that's ease of maintenance within the environment, because we can leverage the technology from Nutanix to take those snapshots, and also we can have credentials to log in and do any work like bringing SQL Server into an application consistent state. So no agents to manage. We've optimized HYCU for Nutanix files using the change file tracking API. So if you're using or considering using Nutanix files, we did a test with 20 million files in a file share, and it took us less than a second to go and figure out what files have changed, and then it was just a matter of backing up the files that changed. Now, for most products, they have to walk the whole file tree. Therefore, that could take, for 20 million files, more than a day just to figure out what files have changed. We do this in literally seconds. And copy-free robo. We leverage Nutanix's robo capability of replication from a remote site and bring it back on-prem. We can then, or to a central data center, we can then back up off that replicated copy. Therefore, the data comes across the wire only once. We can do backup to the cloud, and we don't require any compute resources running in the cloud. Many products, you have to have a compute resource in the cloud, so you're paying for compute resources as well as storage. We can back up to the cloud without having any compute resources running in the cloud. And we're also multi-tenant. So this is what you get with HYCU in terms of capabilities. With the Mine appliance, you get there's a small, medium. There is actually an extra small, and then you can expand out the Mine appliance. And so there, with the small, it comes with a T-shirt size of 200 VMs, and medium comes with 400 VMs with HYCU. You can also order it without the HYCU licensing, and then we can tune the HYCU licensing for your appliance, and that can also help you save money. So please work with your Forthright team, and we can figure out what is the optimal way to license the appliance. So we want to make that very easy for you. And so just some different architectures where HYCU fits in is, just a local backup, multiple clusters within one site, and then we back it up onto the Mine appliance. You can also then have remote appliances and remote clusters, and we bring that, and this is that robo feature I was telling about, so we can back up locally, and then we can connect and connect up to each of those clusters. You can do the robo feature here, so having remote sites copying into the Nutanix data center, then HYCU backing everything up from that data center. And then also we can take backing up any Nutanix cluster, back it up on the Mine device, and then we can go to a secondary storage for a secondary copy, or to a for long-term archiving to Nutanix objects. So a lot of different options here. Just another picture of this, and I want to highlight what we have in terms of an air-gapped solution, and that HYCU is running on the Mine appliance, and therefore these VMs do not have any access to the targets, and so HYCU interacts with Nutanix to take the snapshots, and then copies the data across and stores it on the Mine. Therefore, if any ransomware does get hit, or any viruses, these VMs, that ransomware cannot attack your backups. HYCU is already very secure against ransomware. We've had a couple customers hit with ransomware, and the HYCU VM was the only VM that was not encrypted. They weren't running on a Mine appliance, but the HYCU is running on their production clusters. The HYCU VM was the only VM that didn't get encrypted. Therefore, they were able to recover their environments quickly and easily. There's another architecture very similar to the Mine architecture. It uses objects, so you can do an object cluster and have a HYCU running on that, and that adds the capability of worm, and that is the write once, read many, so you can set up your targets so that there's, that it's immutable during the life cycle. Therefore, even if ransomware was to hit and they was get access, which I mean is, you were secure from that, but you don't want the ultimate protection. Worm provides that, so that that data really becomes immutable. Also from inadvertent deletion also. So, there's multiple ways to secure your environment. Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
It's also big for our regulatory folks on the line. Anybody that's dealing with any regulatory, specifically in the financial industry, Worm is one of those areas of interest to you, as that's one of your compliance requirements. Yeah. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thanks. Appreciate that. So just, in terms of deployment, it just takes minutes to get HYCU installed. You've heard Rob talk about getting Mine set up is just literally minutes to, 40 minutes to get the Mine cluster set up. You can then apply HYCU on top of that with just a couple more minutes. And then, when you go and add a target with HYCU, you just select the Nutanix type, and then you can turn on the deduplication erasure coding, and we communicate and establish that storage on that Mine device, and you can take advantage of it. Also, window, you can specify how many concurrent backups you wish to have on that particular target. So it makes it very easy, to use. It's tightly integrated with Nutanix, and very simple to set up. Now, with Mine, you also get the dashboard here. So, and this is within Prism Element. So now you can start seeing the HYCU dashboard within HYCU, within Nutanix Element, and then you can then see the status of the environment, and everything is hyperlinked, so you can just click on it and be brought into the HYCU UI in context, and you can see what's going on within the environment. So it's tight integration and takes advantage of all those features. Now, we've talked a lot about Mine here, and the Nutanix clusters, but Nutanix and HYCU work together where you can actually go and take Mine out for a test drive, so you can see how it works. So you can hit the URL here down at the bottom, or you can talk to your Forthright account team, and they can help you get set up on this test drive with Nutanix Mine, and you can actually see for yourselves the value and the performance of running Mine. So with that, we're going to go ahead and open it up here for some questions.
If you wouldn't mind, John, I'm just going to recap some stuff for everybody.
Sure.
So that, while they formulate their questions. So guys, at this point in time, I think what we've been able to showcase to all of you is that when you're responsible for data protection in your environment, especially those that have multiple applications, multiple systems, whether that be on-prem or cloud related, you have a solution here with Mine with HYCU, so that you're able to have your data backed up effectively under this single pane of glass thingy that I hate so much. But realistically, you saw that was inside of Prism. For those that are already leveraging Nutanix, you'll be familiar with Prism. And even if that wasn't your thing and you were using just the HYCU interface, you would actually be able to see all that with inside of there too. The simplicity and the growth of your backup secondary storage. Not having to worry about whether it's performing or not, whether you're able to keep all the different tiers in check, the integrity of it in check. That's all being handled for you. And as Rob alluded to, you also don't have to worry about that type of upgrade path, which can get really sketchy when you're doing multi-tiered master child type of backup solutions or data protection solutions. All that is single click in the world of Mine. And then on top of that, when we marry that with HYCU, all of that is just continued on the simplicity with the app discovery, the ability to set policies effectively across different applications, across different architectures. And one thing that may have been overlooked a little bit, but I think it's important to note, is that when we talk about native integration for HYCU, that's exactly what that is. It's true native integration. So John mentioned that we're not, in the case of HYCU, there's not rewriting some craziness for snapshot or replication technology, because when you leverage the nativeness of each of these solutions and now are just the controller of, or the brains, if you will, to see it in one place, that's what you care about as administrators and IT professionals. You just want to make it so it's easy for you to understand and control. You don't need to know that XYZ technology is rewriting some replication because they somehow did it better. Trust me, when you're leveraging the nativeness of what each of these solutions is doing, whether, again, that's Nutanix, whether that's cloud, HYCU is going to give you that place to be able to do that. So I wanted to cover that because I thought that was important. And I think it addressed all the things that we were discussing here. And one thing that John mentioned, I like his analogy of the t-shirt size when we're talking about sizing, is that even licensing in this whole solution becomes super simple. Can it get complex and everything else? Sure, like anything else, but it's really designed to try to keep things simple for you guys, so that as the administrators of data protection, you now know that, oh, it's like this, it's this size, it's that, this is where you fall into, right? Could you imagine if everybody was buying their shirt sizes like you do like a well-tailored suit, or 17 neck with a 36 long sleeves, and that has its place, but that becomes a lot more complicated than just going to your local store and picking up the right shirt size that you have, right? So I think that was a great analogy there, John. With that, Chris, do we have questions that we want to take?
We can open it up to questions. We'll have a couple minutes. If anyone has a question, can either type it in the chat box or use the raise your hand icon and I'll unmute your mic. So let's give everyone a couple seconds to.
And Chris, if you want to make me presenter again, I have the HYCU interface up so people can see it. So while people are formulating questions, we can.
You know, John or Frank, there's another thing that we talked about, complexity, that I didn't hit on, but is something that we often talk about, is the fact that these solutions are application aware. And I think we touched on it maybe during this conversation, but the fact that you might have a ERP package, for example, and it's spread across multiple systems. And obviously conventional backups look at a server or a data set, and they don't look at it from an application standpoint. And I know that you can configure this so it's application aware. Maybe that's something that we might want to talk about as well.
No, that's Steve. Yeah, no, we did, briefly touch upon that, but here you can see, we're application aware. We've automatically discovered these particular applications, and whether using SQL failover clusters or always on, we discover that, back those up, and here you can see we've applied policies to the application. So we've done application consistent backups with that. We leverage snapshots. You can see we have multiple snapshots, whether ESX or AHV. We leverage the snapshots. And this is something other technologies don't do in terms of backup, of leveraging the Nutanix storage level snapshots for backup and recovery on ESX. And we're the only one that does that for ESX. So, I can recover this VM in literally seconds off a snapshot. We had a customer recover a 4 terabyte VM in 40 seconds off a snapshot. So, those are capabilities that, really make this not only easy to use, but, it gives you that performance that you require within your environment to be able to restore things quickly. No, thanks, Steve. Appreciate that. Do we have any questions from?
Some of the other apps, just to name some big ones that we support in this model, is SAP HANA, Oracle databases, obviously Microsoft SQL, Exchange, Active Directory, etc. So just to name some of the big ones.
Right. And then also for, if you have your own applications that, we don't have built-in support for, we can then, we can launch scripts to go and bring it into an application consistent state, either, or integrate with other subsystems before the backup occurs. And so you can run scripts to go and bring, XYZ application into an application consistent state before we do the backups. So that's all built in. So it's just as simple as applying a policy to a VM and away it goes. It's, there's no complex jobs to go and create. So we really have tried to make it very easy to set up, manage, and get things done, and then just use it when you need it.
John, would you mind putting up the test drive link again for everybody? Sure. While we're waiting for any questions.
Yeah. And yeah, let me go bring that back up again here. And so.
And if anybody's interested, if they run the test drive and they like what they see, but they want to get in deeper, definitely reach out to your Forthright guys, and they'll contact me or one of the field engineers, and we'll do a full-blown demo. Definitely.
And I can do that also. We can. And that's the other thing is, contact your Forthright, engineers or account reps, and they can set up a demo of deeper dive with HYCU, deeper dive with Mine, and we can really tailor that presentation to your environment.
And actually, we have a special offer right now, so we're going to be contacting everyone. And anyone who sets up a demo with the Forthright, Nutanix, and HYCU teams will get a $25 Amazon gift card just to sweeten the deal there. So we'll be reaching out to everyone with that offer to set up the demo meeting. So
sweet. Chris, I think we're at the top of the hour, if there's no questions.
I don't think we have any questions, so we'll just we'll be in touch with everyone to follow up to set up your demo meeting, and I will get everyone their gift card, and we'll go from there. So
Fantastic.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you to our
everyone.
sponsors, Nutanix and HYCU, and on behalf of the Forthright team, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Pleasure.